Waiting on God. How do you trust God when you don't have the answers yet? Here's a quick update on my husband's situations. On Monday, July 27, 2026, my husband went to the hospital to have a biopsy done on the mass they found on his pancreas. The procedure is called an endoscopic ultrasound with fine needle aspiration, or EUS-FNA, or sometimes a fine needle biopsy, EUS-FNB. The doctor explained that they would insert a thin, flexible tube through his mouth, down his throat, and into his stomach, using a special needle attached to the scope. They would carefully go through the wall of his stomach. On his case, it's on his pancreas, to reach the mass and collect a tiny tissue sample. That sample would then be examined under a microscope to determine exactly what the mass is. His procedure started around 11:45 a.m. and lasted for almost 2 hours. When he slowly began waking up from the anesthesia, the first thing he complained about was how sore his throat was. After that, the doctor ran a few more tests to make sure there wasn't any tear or damage to his pancreas from the biopsy needle. Thankfully, everything looked okay, but they decided to keep him in the hospital overnight for observation. He was finally able to come home the next morning. Since then, though things haven't been easy, he told me the pain is still there. Every time he tries to eat, he feels like he's going to throw up. The doctor advised him to avoid greasy or oily foods for now and stick with light meals while his pancreas heals. He's also been taking pain medication, but he keeps telling me it doesn't seem to help. What worries me the most is that my husband has always had a high pain tolerance. He lived with pain all his life due to his neuropathy pain. So he was used to that. He's the type of person who rarely complains even when he's hurting. So hearing him say that the pain this bad tells me it must really be hurting. The doctor said this can be normal because the pancreas is a very sensitive organ. After being poked with a needle during the biopsy, it can become inflamed, causing pain and tenderness. They also told us that if the pain gets worse, he'll need to go back to the hospital to be checked again. Today marks day 4 since the biopsy, so we're praying that each day gets a little better. As his wife, it breaks my heart to watch him go through all of this. I honestly can't imagine the pain he's feeling. If I could take it away from him, give him a break, I would in a heartbeat. Right now, all we can do is wait. We're waiting for the biopsy results, and we don't know how long that will take. The waiting is one of the hardest parts because there is so many unanswered questions. One thing the doctor did say that keeps replaying in my mind was this: that mass should not be there. It's not very big, but it is definitely concerning for cancer. Those words are hard to hear. But even in the middle of all this uncertainty, I choose to place everything in God's hands. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. That is where my hope is. And with all this crazy stuff happening right now with my human situation, I want to live with this verse. It's on Romans 8 verse 28. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." It teaches that God can bring good out of every situation for those who love Him and trust Him. It doesn't mean everything that happens is good or that suffering comes from God. Rather, it means God is able to use even pain, sickness, disappointment, and uncertainty to accomplish His purpose and strengthen our faith. What is the takeaway of my storytelling today? That we may not understand why we're going through this, but we can trust that God is working behind the scenes for our good and His glory. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our update, for praying for us, and for walking this journey with our family. Stay safe, be blessed, and no matter what happens, to God be all the glory. Always stay tuned until the next update, guys.